learning about science and got really into it. And so now I'm able to teach my English through the science. I have the kids do the science, and then they're a little more eager to write about it. So it gets them really excited. Something interesting about myself, let's see. I believe I was the first person ever to make a sale on Teachers Pay Teachers back when it started.
Nice. I tell you what, this is a total side story, but I accidentally started a fight on Twitter over Teachers Pay Teachers one night. There was an article about some lady who made $1 million selling stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I just tweeted it out because I was like, wow, hey, more power to her. She made $1 million. Good for her. I wish I was that smart. And man, I started a storm of tweets that people were like, hey, should be given away for free and blah, blah, blah. Like, I was like, yikes, I don't even want to go in this route. So that's awesome. That's really cool though, that you're possibly the first on Teachers Pay Teachers. That's super cool. All right. So tell us a little bit about how you came to know Book Creator. Tell us a little backstory here.
So I took my instructional technology certification courses through the University of St. Francis, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And while I was going through it, it was one of the lists of sites. And as soon as I tried, I went, oh my goodness, I have to use this with my students. I have reluctant writers. Usually when you're learning language, the last thing you pick up on is how to write. It's the hardest piece and it takes the longest to get. And so it's what I spend most of my days doing. And I went, I can make them like it. At least I can make them not hate it. And so I started using it for that my first year. And then when I started integrating the science, I realized that I can use it to give my work, kind of like teachers will use like a smartboard app or a Google Slides to project stuff for the kids. I do it in a Book Creator book that's published, and I just keep adding to it because then the kids, if they want to look at stuff at home, they can see an updated version of it continuously, and they can see all the classroom notes. Then from their lab notebooks, they can add pictures of their experiments and videos, because they can see, like they remind themselves of what they did. Because if you just give them a blank piece of paper or a blank Google Doc, they'll go, I don't know what to write, Mrs. Eaton, I don't know what to write. But if they have a picture of the experiment they just did, or something they're observing, or a video of it, I'm like, well, look at the picture, tell me what you see. Write that, that's great. And then they're a little less reluctant to write. And then once the pen and all the extra special features came out, I had kids begging me to add extra pages onto the end just for fun. And I was like, fine, but it's got to be at the end of the book.
Yeah. For me personally too, I agree that I found that when I tell my students that we're making a book, right? It doesn't even matter really what's in it. It's just the fact that we're making a book that has a totally different connotation than fill out this worksheet or write a document or make a slideshow or whatever that case may be. Being able to write a book and be an author and be able to share that book out there with the world is very powerful for these kids. Awesome, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here real quick, and I'm going to show the book to everybody that I've been teaching or showing, and then I'm going to have Melissa talk a little bit about why she did that. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to get away from my emails because you guys don't care about all my emails. But the book that I found, and actually I didn't even find it, my coworker found this book. And so when we started doing our home learning with Book Creator webinars, we found this, we just thought this was really amazing example of how you can use Book Creator in a remote learning situation to help continue teaching things to your students. And so again, this was just my initial questions, and again, we'll have you answer these here in a second, but I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. It's a real book, right? It's a book that I have probably seen at some point, at somewhere. We've got some really nice pictures in here. What I really enjoyed was the audio buttons. I thought that was really fantastic. And so again, this just kind of grabbed my attention. And I loved how Melissa took a standard type of text and then really enhanced it by adding these audio buttons in, adding, a video down here explaining what's going on. We've got this talking cat, right, which is amazing because everybody loves talking cats. And then we've got, follow-up activities. Did you ever wonder why snow is white? I know I have, and I've clicked on that link quite a few times, right? So like those are things that I think are really fascinating about what you did in this book. So I'm going to share my screen, or I'm going to stop my sharing. Sorry about that. I'm going to flip over control here to Melissa. And basically, Melissa, what I would like you to do here is just talk to us. Why did you decide to make this book, right? Why did you decide to make it look like this? Maybe talk about what your students thought about it, and then, what were the results of this, and kind of, maybe if you can, if you want to log into your book creator account and just kind of show us how you put in the audio, or like what was going
Oh
through
yeah,
your head as you
I
built
can
this.
definitely do that.
This would be great.
Okay, so it's a dual purpose. I wish there was a better way of explaining it, but killing two birds with one stone. Besides my ELL teacher job, I'm a science methods professor at North Central College, also in Naperville. And all these student teachers at the same time as the regular teachers got sent home with the COVID situation. Same thing exact happened to all of the practicum teachers. They couldn't go in to the schools anymore, but they had to write all these lessons for the class. And my school in particular, we were looking for things we could send out to students, focusing on socio-emotional things that were fun, but also academically engaging. And I went, I know what I'm going to do. Now we're allowed to do these read alouds, with publisher permission, of course. So I'm going to have my students do interactive read alouds, but I can't ask them to do it unless I come up with a really good example. And I was like, well, which book should I use? And I love Kate Mesner's books. They're amazing. But it happened to be that weird day in March when it snowed. It snowed like it was amazing amount of snow. So I had my son Henry, who is a really, really good sport. And I said, you want to star in my video? And I think I bribed him with cookies or something. I don't remember. But I said, come outside with me. Come play with me for a little bit. If you'll be in my, I'll give you some cookies and we can do this. And I went outside and I found different things around my backyard that I could link to that. And then I tried really hard to get things where the kids could go deeper, like a situation where when they're talking about snow, I knew there was a lesson that they could click on that was kind of self-contained that would teach them about snow. So I wanted to take the read aloud and make it interactive and link it to all different kinds of things that the kids could do, so that if they're at home, they're not just like, all right, I finished my worksheet, I'm done. They're engaged and they're like, ooh, I can click on this, I can learn more. And that was kind of my goal behind it. And I ended up having all of my undergrad students do their own versions of read aloud books in a similar way. And then after that, we kind of progressed to writing whole self-contained science lessons, also using book reader.
You know what? I think it's so true. I mean, I don't know how many times I've read a book or a textbook or something, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't quite understand that, or boy, that's interesting. I wish there was more information. Now it's a different age than when I was a kid. I can get on my phone and I can Google something and try to find more information. But I love the fact that you built that right into the book, because then instead of having an instant interest and then the kid saying, I'm going to wait till I finish the book before, like by the time I get to the end of the book, I'm done. Like I forgot what it was that I was interested in. I don't care anymore necessarily. I'm just ready to move on. And what I like is that as the kids are there and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, why is Snow White, right? Like their brains just open and you can just shove that really good information right down inside there, and you have that opportunity right inside the book. And I think that's really awesome, instead of just waiting till something else happens. So anyway, yeah, I think that's great.
Now, incidentally, the book did not take me all that long to do. I would say the recording was probably the longest. One sec here. I'm clicking on, how do I click on? I want to click on everything. Share screen. Yeah, I want to share that screen.
Yep.
Sorry. Let me see if I can find it here. Nope, that's the other one that I did. I have a couple of them pulled up. My speaker tends to get in front of the tab that I'm trying to get at. So the first thing that I did was I checked the publisher permissions, of course, and I am well aware that once the COVID situation is over, I won't be able to share it publicly anymore and things like that. But for now, I wanted to also make sure I included the link to buy the book, because it's a book worth buying for sure. And then I made sure I read aloud the text. And the reason I like Book Creator over other apps is I can record these little audio samples that are very short. And my goal is always to have all of the text on a page recorded on that page so that the students can listen to it. It's not like they have to listen to the entire story over again if they want to stop and think about something. It's on that page. And sometimes I'll even do like different text boxes with multiple speech, little audio, I don't even know what you call those things, a little sound thingy. Yep. And the other thing I incorporated that I made my undergrads do as well is video of themselves teaching. I'm like, don't stress too much about it, but they want to see your face. They need a personal connection. And if they can't have you in the room with them reading the book, they can at least see some video of you. I also know from 20 years of being a teacher that when I throw either my kids or my cats or something personal like about me in there, the students get so excited. Is that your real cat? Yes, that is my real cat, who is like trying to sit on the laptop while I was typing. So those are some of the elements that I added in there. And then I also do, while I'm reading with my students, think alouds, kind of like, you know, when you're a good reader, you constantly are stopping and wondering, stopping and asking questions. Some of them might get answered, some of them not, but I'm trying to like model that within here. And then anytime I found a connection at all, I included it. So the little video that's here is out the window of my classroom about 2 weeks before, you know, we got sent home. And I believe this is the one where was it the one where the squirrel was at the bird feeder, hanging off the end of it. So I was like, oh, I can include that. Let's see. I figured out how to get some of the sounds that birds make from the Cornell site and get those so that they could be included, so that when they say, you know, oh, you know, there's an owl, the kids could hear it while they're listening, because that makes it more immersive as a story. For especially kids that reading is maybe not their favorite thing, this kind of thing will get them engaged much more and make them maybe more likely to like actually read the book. That's why I also wanted the text included. Let's see what else I've got in here. I'm going to go ahead to the end of the book because that's kind of my favorite element of it. When I went to the end, let's see here. There we go. I was like, all right, I want there to be some extras. And that way, if I was to assign this to my students, they could read the story, but there's extra things they can do if they want. There's extra things that they maybe will spark an idea. And I thought, well, every kid can go outside and see if they can find, you know, evidence of insects. And it was just sheer luck that we happened to open this bird feeder and find a little fly in there that was hibernating. And it was that extra aspect of it, the little, you know, click here to learn more about what happens in bugs in winter. Here's a video from my real backyard. Some of the kids think that I live at the school and they're amazed when they see that I have a backyard. Those elements really make the story come to life. And one of the things I've started to figure out with Book Creator, it is one of the few formats that doesn't use a YouTube player for videos, unless you're directly linking to YouTube. So if I take videos, whether they're like my personal videos, if I just put them on Google Drive and shared them on a Google Doc, my kids can't see it because it uses a YouTube player. But Book Creator, if I, you know, download the video to my hard drive and upload it into Book Creator, it doesn't use a YouTube player. So my students on their school Chromebooks can see all the videos, which is, I can't tell you how huge that's been. In my district, it's a big deal. And I just took a little walk around. I would say the video, maybe I was outside 40 minutes. I don't have a lot of cold tolerance. And then I just threw the videos up there. I didn't even really edit them. And I connected to some of the things like a little tablet to learn more about birds. That's something I use in my classes regularly. I just wanted the kids to have more to do because I knew my own school-age children, they were so bored. Well, you know, that first couple of weeks when they came home, yeah, they had work to do, but it was like pictures of textbooks. They had to answer the questions. That's all they were doing. This is just as educationally meaningful, but also kind of fun. And I found that when I assigned my actual students things like this to do, not only did they have a better completion rate, they would do these assignments first and ask me if we were getting more. It was something they wanted to do instead of just something they had to do.
Yeah, and that's amazing, right? Whenever you can get kids to say, give me more, without having to like twist their arm or bribe them with something, I think that's important. The other thing I want to, that as you're talking, things are like going through my head. I think some of our viewers, or our listeners, are watching, you know, thinking, well, this is pretty cool, but you know, maybe it's elementary or you know something like that. And as I'm watching you do this and talk about this, there's a lot of ideas that are going through my head where I'm thinking math textbook. I'm thinking social studies, you know, and especially with math, I was always that kid where the math teacher would show me something and I would be like, I'd raise my hand and he'd be like, John, and I'm like, when am I going to use this? Right? Like that was always me. And I wouldn't fight too long. I got the A's in all the math classes and stuff, but I don't remember much about it because I just got the A. That's all I really cared about.
Right.
But when I can see a math teacher doing this and on one page explaining the topic, showing you how to solve the problems, and then having some sample problems that you have to solve, but then on the next page, going out in the backyard and showing different measurements and showing where 90-degree angles are in the real world, or showing you how to find, you know, rise over run and all that kind of interesting stuff, right? Like, I think that would be really, really fascinating to take this idea into other subjects.
And I did actually, I did it for sure for the straight up science. I have an entire Google Slides presentation of all my students' work that I helped them quite a bit with it. And when we were doing it, one of the things that I insisted is that they add in extra lessons to go along with the math, just like you're talking about. And one of them was, oh, they had to design catapults and measure, and they did little books on that. And then another one was they had to do non-standard measurement for the younger kids. They had to find something around their house that was a standard size and use it to measure something when they didn't have a ruler. But we did, so we have the interactive read alouds like Over and Under the Snow, but we also did these lessons here that are all of them are in Book Creator. And each one is designed to go with a science standard, but also either an ELA or a math standard. So they're kind of embedded lessons. And the kids are all, I required them to do science in each one. So they had to do something like count all the electrical outlets in their house and make it into like a fraction, you know, or go through and find, if they're for the electricity ones, find a toy in your house, and these are fourth graders, you know, take off the thing and look at the battery. Well, can you find the positive and the negative? Those are things kids can do around their house without having to buy anything. That gets them a little bit intrigued. And I started doing a whole series of these. I went back with my son Henry and my daughter Ellie, who's 2, and we went out to the prairie right behind my school because I thought the kids, I don't know, I thought they might be missing the school and the area. So I went there and I took a little walk and then, you know, recorded things right there. And I did another little book about that to get the kids. I was trying to get them outdoors, to be honest. A lot of these kids have been inside for months, even now in the summer. Their parents are at work and they're stuck at home and they're in the house. So my hope was to inspire them, yes, with tech, yes, on a screen, but inspire them to get outside and like do some exploration. So that's kind of where the whole idea for these came from. And then when I taught an online Zoom summer school this year for 2 classes worth, a 3rd grade class and a 5th grade class. And what we did is I would have my book creator with all the directions, and the kids had to do their own activities. So we did making a paper airplane. We had an interview with an aeronautical engineer who showed us how to make the best paper airplanes. And then I had the kids do it, record themselves flying their paper airplanes, and then analyze how their plane did.
Oh, nice.
In their book creator notebooks. And then they could share with each other because I leave the little button clicked so the kids can see each other's notebooks. And they love to look at what their friends did. And especially when they're feeling isolated, to see what the other kids in the class are doing was amazing. Book creator is what made teaching on Zoom possible for me. And actually not, I don't want to say it's definitely not better than teaching in person. But book creator helped make my Zoom summer school. Their parents were basically saying it was the thing that they were looking forward to each day. And considering that people complain a lot about remote learning, myself included, that felt really good to hear that the kids were having something engaging and fun in their day. And because of Book Creator, I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like what you said too about, you know, having, I think in my webinars, when we talk about that little button, right? Do you want to see the other student work, right? I think it's always like a toss up, right? Like, I feel like there's like 2 little competing people on your head, you know, trying to figure out, should I let kids see the other kid work? Should I not? And I tend to believe that you could allow other students to see other kids work, because sometimes, you know, you get that kid who's just going to sit there and he's going to be like, I don't have any ideas. I don't know what I want to talk about. I don't know what I want to write about. But then they start seeing other kids work and be like, oh, you know what? He's writing about dragons. I like dragons, but more importantly, I like knights and princesses and things like that. So I'm going to write about that. And so I think it helps to spark that interest in others. So I think
for my students, because it's open-ended, if it was a closed kind of question where there was a right answer for anything I'm asking them to do, I can see why you wouldn't want to click that button. But for me, if my students look at each other's work and they see, oh, wow, look at how much they wrote, or look what they did, that tended to like up the game a little bit. So in general, I did let them see. And then for I teach a elementary robotics group. I had them do lab books, and I didn't want the teams to see each other's. So I had a Padlet, and I published each individual book on that team's Padlet so they could see, but only their team's book, because in that case, I didn't want them to see the other team's Padlets. And that's where they had all their engineering designs and everything that they were doing in their progress in making their robots. So it's just been a really good format for my students. The piece about the video and allowing them to see the video has been critical. It's not just English learners. I wanted to make these books accessible for every student, period. I wanted it to be able to be sent out. Like, I sent it out to my entire school building and said, hey, teachers, share it with whoever you like. Here you go. And a lot of them did. And I would get emails from parents of kids that were never in any of my classes that were like, I love this book. How did you do that? So it was very nice to see the students get engaged and ask them, are you going to do another one? What's your next one going to be about? That was really good for me to hear. It was, oh, yay. But more importantly, I heard from a couple of parents that said, he got off the Xbox and went out in the backyard for 20 minutes. I was thrilled.
Yep, that's awesome. That's awesome. So when you were talking about making this book, you mentioned getting the permission, obviously, from the author to go ahead and do that. How difficult of a process was that? How did you reach out to this person specifically?
I didn't need to. There was at the time, and I don't know if I have the exact link at the beginning here. I include the link to buy it, and I included, let me see what I included. I don't remember how I did it, because I had to help all of my students find permissions for all of these. And I don't know if this link, yeah, here we go. Fair use for online storytime reads. And they were saying it's fine to make them, it's fine to share them, it's fine to do all of that. And it was on her actual website that she included like the legalese. And so I just didn't want to take any chances that I was doing something wrong, because I want to respect the author's work. So I actually linked to it oops, wrong one, sorry. I actually linked to it right here, and I asked my students to do the same. One second, I'm gonna grab my alarm, it's going off.
Sure. For those of you that are still with us and watching, in the chat window, if you have questions for Melissa about what she's done, go ahead and put those into the chat window, and we'll make sure that we get those to her so she can answer those questions before we leave today. This was really just a short webinar in our series, and I'm very excited about what Melissa has done and what she has shown us today. So I really appreciate that. I think we probably already answered some of this question, but my next question to you, Melissa, was what are ways you think that you could improve on this in the future? Like what, taking it a little bit further, or extension activities based on what you've done. I think we've kind of answered some of that, but if you have other thoughts in terms of taking it further, where do you think you're going to go from here with this?
So with this one specifically, like this was the first book creator I did as one of these remote learning lessons. It was like right after, I think it was like a week or so after all this happened, that I did this. But once I started getting into it and helping, all 29 of my undergrads make these, I realized, well, there's a lot of things I didn't do. I could have had a link when he first went out into the snow where I showed the kids how to measure the depth of the snow. Measurement's huge with science, and it's a skill kids really aren't, all right, fine, adults really aren't that great at measuring things accurately. So having the kids do that would have been something easy and fun they could do anytime it snowed. And that would have been a nice little mini math lesson that could be a little page, little page in there. And I figured out how to do took out like an Aldi box and stuck my cell phone on top of it. And I made myself a little document camera to do like the actual math instruction. And then I can upload those right into here. So if I was going to do this again, I would add in some more math connections. I would probably also add in vocabulary boxes. When I did words, oh my goodness, when I added in words like glide, like up here where it says over the snow, I glide. Now I usually say it glide so that the kids kind of get it. But I would also probably have little vocabulary box that has me saying it slowly, and maybe even like breaking it down for English learners that need a little more support. And then a definition that was simple or included a picture. Because looking something up in a dictionary often gives my students more words that they don't know. If you define the word with a bunch of words you don't know, then that doesn't help. But maybe even a little a GIF or a little picture of someone gliding would be perfect. And I would definitely add that in if I do more read alouds.
Oh, that's awesome. We do have a question from Nelan here. So are all of the sound bites reading the written work in the boxes allowed? Yes. So all of the sound little sound audio buttons are actually reading the text that's on the page. And then the next question along that line was, how did your high school or college level students take to the Book Creator app or the site and making those creations and resources? Was there any pushback from those students?
Well, okay. So first of all, they had an advantage in that just like I use Book Creator lab books with my students, I do the same thing with my college students, their undergraduate education majors in science. I had them use their lab books, and they had to experience science as a student before I had them write any lessons, because science is taught so differently now with the next gen science standards. So they had already had some familiarity with using Book Creator, and that's one of the reasons I chose the format, especially once I figured out Google Slides could not do what I needed it to do. But Book Creator can. So I showed them kind of my example, and I gave examples of what to do. And this project itself, the read aloud, was not too difficult. I would say when they went into making it full-scale science lessons, that was a little more complicated. I ended up having to record lots of screencasts on how to do things like, download MP3s versus MP4s and then convert them and then upload them. And that was a little more trickier. Yeah, there was it was difficult to do this. However, at the end of the semester, I had multiple students specifically send me emails thanking me because they said, they're going to add it to their portfolio. This is something they sent out to their actual practicum class. And because there were pictures and video of them, and the kids got to see it. It was a very difficult process. But the way I said it was, well, it's only fair if you want to be a teacher, you have to make, at least one lesson for students virtually. Like, teachers have to do lots and lots of lessons. I'm going to show you how to do it right, and you guys are going to make a couple of them. But classroom teachers are having to teach virtually all day. So, in other words, kind of like get used to it. This is education.
Yeah, right. You don't like making lesson plans, you're in the wrong place. So, yeah, no, great question, Nolan. If there's any other questions, go ahead and put those into the chat window or the Q&A box, and we'll go ahead and answer those. And then I guess for me, my final wrap up thing for you, this is something I have been fascinated with, and it has absolutely nothing to do with anything that we've talked about necessarily today, but I am fascinated, and this is going to sound really strange, but I've been fascinated for the last couple of years with death in terms of the classroom. And so if you had one thing in your classroom right now that you had to just kill off, right? You didn't want it doesn't belong there anymore. Teachers shouldn't be doing it anymore. It's just one thing. What's that one thing that you would get rid of in order to make room for something new and better?
It would be textbooks in general. A lot of them have cultural bias and are written in a way that's too high for students to really understand. They're not very immersive. So I tend to use them in my classroom for things like when we do engineering experiments. They're great to prop stuff up. Or I put them underneath my computer in my classroom because one year kids were using a digital microscope and they dumped water and it went under my computer. So now I always have my computer sitting on textbooks. So they're great for that, but I would be fine to kick those out and use the room for more hands-on materials to have students immersed in learning, because my goal is really to create kids who want to learn instead of kids who are compliant, if that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. And I would say with books like this and lessons that you've presented with us today, I would definitely say that it's going to happen, right? Those are the things that I want to learn more after watching and looking at some of the stuff that you presented here today with us. So I want to thank you, Melissa, for being here. Jamie says, can we click on an audio to hear a sample? So yeah, if you want to click on one of those, Melissa. You may need to stop sharing, and then there's a little checkbox under Zoom for that audio.
I have to hit the box in order to hear that. Okay, one sec. Let me hit the stop share. And then I know which one you're talking about. I've done this before. It's when I go to share screen, I hit, no. Let's see. Where is it to hit that?
Little check at the bottom or something that says play audio.
Yes, but is it under share screen?
I thought it was. If not, go ahead and
share. I found it. Here we go. Share computer sound. That's what it is. Okay. So if I go here, let me just click on one of the audio clips.
Over the snow, a flash of fur. A red squirrel disappears down a crack. Where did he go? Under the snow, Dad says.
So when I was reading it, one thing I love about the way that Book Creator does it is I can do one page or one line of text at a time. And for me, when I'm recording it from the teacher perspective, I have to say, when I have to do a whole lot of text, I have to record it 15 times because I'm like, oh, I stumbled over that word or whatever. But because I can do just little snippets of text at a time, I was able to record this pretty quickly. I can say 2 or 3 lines without screwing up, but if you ask me to do an entire page of text, I'm going to make a mistake and do it over again 15 times.
Yeah, I hear you, because I tease everybody that I have reading-induced narcolepsy. So if I start reading out loud, I can't get 2 or 3 sentences before I start yawning. If I'm reading, it's really strange. So I would love that what you said there. You can just take small snippets and get through what you can get through. And then Jamie also said, my summer school students are creating fantasy books. She's just a novice at book creator, but she would love any suggestions for her and her students as they are creating these fantasy books. And I will say, before Melissa gives you her answer, my first thing is, if you're a novice with book creator, definitely check out some of our other webinars. And I'm going to put the link to the webinars in here. If you go to bookcreator.com/webinars, you'll see all the webinars that we have for the rest of this month, which is tomorrow. And then August, right? We've got some great webinars coming up in August. So definitely check those out. But Melissa, any advice?
Oh, yes. So if they're drawing on the screen, which I don't do, but my students do, and that's because they have a touch screen and I don't, and drawing with a mouse is horrible, but on a touch screen, the kids really like it. When they draw something, have them draw it with the pen huge and then shrink it down real little. And then they don't have to make a new drawing on each page. They can copy that drawing to go on other pages. And sometimes what my students will do is, if they prefer to make their drawing on a piece of paper and take a picture of it and upload it, that's faster. And then they can copy, the same picture and just like change speech bubbles or change a position. And it makes the whole process of adding the pictures into the stories a little bit simpler. And the kids really get a kick out of that. They also like recording their own voices in the book. Like, they make the characters make the sounds with the speech bubbles for their fantasy stories. I think that would work really well.
Yeah. And then Jamie said no Chrome, they have Chromebooks, no touchscreens. And Jamie, so if you're not too familiar with Book Creator, definitely check out the pen tool, because even on a trackpad, which honestly is one of the worst experiences ever on a computer, right? Trying to draw something on a trackpad, it's pretty terrible. But we do have the auto draw feature in the pen tool. So definitely check that out. Definitely check out some of our Getting Started with Book Creator webinars. We'll take a deep dive into all of that for you. But I think you're going to be all right, Jamie, and I think your kids are going to love it. And then Nalan, I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to. You said under the play button at the top. I'm sorry, what's under the play button at the bottom of the page? So I'm not.
Oh, here? Like this? I think that's what she's asking about. The play button at the bottom of the page here? Like, what is this? Yeah. And it's a video, and I think if I don't already, I'm fine with.
So what we have here, my friends, is a squirrel, and I think we found out who's been stealing the bird seed.
He's super squirrel.
So it's a picture of a squirrel on a bird feeder that actually my second graders made, and he's hanging upside down. He chewed a hole in the plastic, and he's eating the bird seed right out of it. And I just thought it fit in pretty well, because on this page it was about a squirrel. I just always have my phone on me, and anytime I see something weird or interesting, I take a video of it. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I find I can throw it in all kinds of places, and my kids always get a kick out of it, and the students get excited by that kind of stuff. How often do you see a bird feeder with a squirrel hanging upside down on it? Well, more often than you'd think, actually.
I think that's great. Always recording things that you think are funny. I always take pictures of things that I think are funny, and I'll tweet them out. Like if I'm driving down the street and I see a sign at McDonald's that says "Now hiring chicken McNuggets for $1," and I'm like, why would you hire chicken McNuggets for $1? Isn't there minimum wage, right? Like, those are the funny things that that go through my head. So anyway, I appreciate that. Well, Melissa, I just want to say thank you so much again for being here. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So if there's any last minute questions, you got about 15 seconds to get those typed in there in that chat window.
I see someone has a hand up. Let's see.
Does anybody have if there's a hand? Unfortunately, you can't really do much with the hand. So if you just have a question, put it in the chat window.
Let's see if it goes up in the chat window here.
Oh, there's a Q&A question. Let's see what that says. DL Dean's here. Hi, DL Dean. He's just saying hi. So hi, DL Dean. Welcome. DL Dean is one of our webinar super gurus. I think DL Dean, you've probably been to every webinar that we've had. And he actually did one of the Book Creator webinars in Arabic. So very exciting.
Oh, I love that. We had, because I'm an ELL teacher, we had a newcomer come in March 14th. The student entered the country, and really hard time to come in. And we did an entire Book Creator book where every page was something different, and we recorded the words in English. And I had one of our Arabic speaking teaching assistants that recorded in Arabic. And then we put the Arabic on the right and the English on the left, because that's the direction you start reading, right, in our languages. And it was like it's just called Learning English. And it was a page like with a tree, and it's like the trunk and the branch. And it was a page with colors, and it's all the different colors. And then we showed things like how to, in English, you'd say the car is blue, or the blue car. And then in Arabic, it's the other way around. So we would explain those things to the student, and that's kind of how we taught him English. But we have a lot of Arabic speakers at my school, so I think that's great. I love the multilingual content, and the fact that you can record it in whatever language you want is so good for the kids.
That's awesome. And Melissa Carmen says, you rock. Natalia says, this is an interesting experience. And I will say that I absolutely really enjoyed this today. I think this is a great one. I'm looking forward to doing this each month with somebody new. And for those of you that are still with us, I did record a video of this, so I will send you a video link later so that you can watch this webinar again if you need to. And I will also send you a copy of a blank certificate of attendance. And that way you can throw in, put your name on there, print it out, write your name in, send it to your district, or if you have a PDF editor of your choice, you can add your own name in there and do all of that. So anyway, yes, thank you. And DLD is here, says, I'm always happy to help anybody with Arabic stuff. So yes, definitely. If
I'll remember that.
Just there, then yeah, we're for sure definitely help. DLD will be there to help out with that. But again, thank you, everyone. Melissa, thank you. If you want to, Melissa, if you could switch over the
Oh, of course.
ownership to me.
Let's
We'll
see
go ahead and
here.
wrap things up here. But for those of you that are watching, again, thank you so much. Be safe out there and happy bookmaking. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. John Smith at bookcreator.com. No H in John, and the iPod Teacher on Twitter. But thank you, everyone, so much for being here. Have a great day. Thank you, Melissa. Once again, have a great day. All righty. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.